Hello, everybody, and welcome into another duly noted podcast. Well, you can tell I've been away a little while. Another duly noted podcast presented by Titan MRI live from the Shack Allen Mercandane Studios. We appreciate everybody who is watching. And of course, you can watch us on Facebook and YouTube. But if you want to listen at any time on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Castbox, all the different 39 platforms are on where you can find this podcast and your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. We're here and we're fine because we survived Tropical Storm Elsa. I will say this: I've been through a lot of hurricanes and a lot of tropical storms, and this one we lost power for about an hour at night. Um, but this one dumped more water in my backyard than anyone I've ever had. Maybe it's just because of the way the yard is now configured because of the dog running around out there all the time. But it was the first time I told my wife, you might have been right about flood insurance. I'm a little bit nervous now. I've never worried about it before. But obviously we had that. I was able to get over to St. Augustine. We taped a couple of shows ahead of time, so I was able to have some vacation. Evan was able to have some vacation. And I will say this, on Wednesday during the tropical storm, I was just sitting there with my computer, but just mostly with a bunch of notebooks. You know, I'm a big legal pad guy, and all I was doing was just coming up with ideas for different things, whether it was the many things that I do, writing for WRUF, doing this podcast, writing for Gators Wire, and it was very creatively stimulating. So I think I kind of needed that little bit of a break. Went over to St. Augustine, saw my family, all my family, and that was great as well. So happy to have been joined by two new sponsors. We're still waiting for one more, and I think hopefully we'll have the word on that soon. But Hesser and Kipke, a law firm here in Gainesville, is going to be one of our sponsors, and we're really happy to have Ken Hesser and his wife on board, and also Alex Wesley Construction joining us as a sponsor. They're also a sponsor of the Bob Dooley Invitational. So, we're in great shape, and golly, I can't wait till football starts, and we can just sit and talk football. You know, that's going to be the great part of it. Obviously, the one thing that happened while I was gone over the weekend, and when we did our show that we taped last week with Chris Harry, we didn't know if Colin Castleton was coming back. Turned out he did come back, and now he's back. So that's good news for Florida basketball. They needed that big guy in the middle. The one thing you're going to probably get upset about during the season is he's probably going to take more three-pointers, and we talked about that on Monday's show. So it was kind of like when Blackshear did it. You know, he'd take them, and every once in a while he'd make one, you'd be all excited. But that's what the NBA. You got to be able to shoot the threes if you're a big man now. You can't, and you see it with Giannis. He can't shoot free throws, but he does shoot a lot of three-pointers. Not a lot of them go in, but it's the way of the world these days. So we'll see what happens with that. I do want to talk a little bit of Florida football today. Well, we'll talk a lot of Florida football, but I want to talk a little bit about something we've talked about here a little bit, and that's how everybody seems to be dismissing this Florida team. So I'm going to discuss that a little bit later. We have three things from Han Law coming up to Leonardo's Quick Picks. George Luttrell was our winner of the last one, and he knows. I've texted him. I've been late getting the stuff out. I'm getting it out tomorrow, I promise. Obviously, the Adams Ripco to go Mount Rushmore. Today is women's tennis. That's going to be a hard one because there's so many great ones. And the Friday football fix, all that coming up and more here on Another Dooley Noted Podcast. We can't wait. But right now, we're going to talk to a good friend of mine who is out in Los Angeles. And when I come out there, he is going to probably have to at least introduce me to one star, because all I ever see is him being taking pictures with stars. So you got to get me at least a B-list star out there. Bob Hewko joins us on Another Duly Noted Podcast.
That is a deal, Pat. Anytime you come out here, I'll introduce you to all the stars. It's just funny, living in Florida my whole life, you had a lot of girls that look like Kardashians. Out here, it is the Kardashians. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I live in Hollywood, so I see them every day. So, yeah, come on out. We'll have some fun.
Yeah, what are you doing out there now? I know you've been doing some talent stuff. What are you doing?
Right. I've been doing the football. I always keep my foot in the door with some football broadcasting. And, for 6 years, I did the women's football professional tackle league, which was incredible. And so out here, my real business forever has been the casino marketing industry. So I work with Caesars Entertainment, one of the big guys in Las Vegas and around the world. So I create events for them. We do all kinds of events, from celebrity golf tournaments to major superstars playing at our properties. And when I started back in the day in Florida representing Caesars, we had 3 properties: Caesars Palace in Vegas, Lake Tahoe, and Atlantic City. Now we've got over 500. It's crazy, but you know how big Caesars is. They're the big guys.
Yeah. By the way, I got to tell a story on Bob, because I asked him for some numbers a while back of some players.
Be nice, by the way. Be nice.
No, I am. But one of the players was James Jones. So today I'm texting that number to ask James to come on the podcast. And the person who texted me back said, "Yeah, I'll be happy to do it. What are we going to talk about?" And I said, "Well, we'll talk about your career and the great catch you made."
Don't tell me. It wasn't.
And the person sent me back a text and goes, "Well, since I'm in high school, I don't know what career I could talk about." So,
I'll look at that. Whatever number I got for James, I've got probably a bunch, but I'll give you whatever I have. Yeah.
So it was hilarious, though. It made me laugh because we won't have James Jones on Monday, I don't think.
What we should get some of the. I was thinking about who we're going to be talking about today, and obviously Mullen's doing an incredible job at Florida, and the year they had last year with Trask was phenomenal. The record didn't end up that I shouldn't say that great, but for Florida, not that great, 8-4. But the way he coaches reminds me a lot of how Shanahan, when I was there, he knows how to adapt to his players. He knows what his players do and do well, and then he makes his offense work that way. Hopefully it's going to be the same way this year.
I remember in 1980 when you took over the quarterback job, and then you guys started off with a great run, and then you hurt your knee.
Right.
And I remember the next day.
We were undefeated, bro.
It was gloomy and overcast, and I'm like, this is the worst day ever, because Hewko's out now, and who knew what was going to happen from that point.
Right. And the funny part, not funny now, but back then, I didn't think I was going to be out. You don't know how hurt you are until, they found out that I tore a ligament. And back then, when you tear ligaments, you're out for the year. You're not out for a month. You're out for the entire year. And that's when, the guys behind me came in, and Wayne Peace took over.
Yeah, and did a good job. Mostly handing off, but he made some nice throws.
Don't let Wayne hear that.
We need to get Wayne on. Wayne's kind of shy about stuff like that, though.
He's shy in general. That's Wayne. That's Wayno.
Yeah, exactly. But talk about that in your career here in Florida. And you guys always had good teams, and obviously the '82 team had more big wins, I think, than almost any Florida team ever.
We had more big players. The talent we had in '82 was insane. I think I told you before, I used to think I was good. Now I look back at that team. I had Mike Shanahan calling the plays, had 4 number 1s in my backfield, 4 number 1s. All 4 got drafted number 1. Defense, we had Wilbur Marshall, Tony Lilly, had Lomas Brown, Danny Fike blocking for me, and Shanahan calling plays. It wasn't a bad setup.
Yeah, well, I was wondering because when during that USC game, players, quarterbacks always tell me that when they're not in the game, they're over on the sideline, they're not paying attention to the defense. But I got to think at some point you guys started watching Wilbur and what he was doing at USC.
Right. I think I told you before that when I signed with the Bucks, the guy playing our team at that time, I thought was the most talented player I'd ever been on a field with. That was Hugh Green, playing for the Bucks. And the other person that had that kind of talent was Wilbur Marshall. He was phenomenal at Florida. They had him I don't know if you remember, he came in as a tight end. Yeah, they moved him over to defense. And in fact, Malarkey came in as a quarterback. They moved him to tight end. And we had Malarkey and Faulkner at tight ends. And if Dan Mullen watches your show, if I can recommend one thing for the new, not he's a new quarterback, he's the new starting quarterback this year, use the tight end. Shanahan always taught me that first year. We were undefeated. use our tight ends, get the ball to the tight ends. That not only opens up the passing game deep, it opens up the running game because you start hitting Faulkner and Malarkey all the way down the field. It opens up the deep balls, and then we can run the football. And Shanahan taught me that one thing: use your tight ends. If you got them, use them.
Well, they had one last year, and they used him a lot. And he
was okay.
Into a fourth pick in the draft, but we're talking to Bob Hewko, the second best left-handed quarterback to ever play.
Whoa! You want to repeat that?
Yeah.
Who was number one?
Tim Tebow.
Come on, man. Come on. I know he had the name and all that, but I don't know if he would have started on our team. I can tell Tim that.
That is true.
I had four All-Americans behind me. You remember that?
Yeah, that was unbelievable. I mean, and also, having Charlie as your head coach too was pretty incredible because for all the foibles of Charlie Pell, and we all know that some things he did he shouldn't have done. I mean, he really knew how to put together a football team and knew how to put together a game plan.
Right. And Gil Brandt's the one who helped him out with that, which I didn't believe. And I asked Shanahan how he got there. Charlie asked, I like how I call Coach Pell Charlie now. Charlie asked Gil Brandt who the youngest and most talented offensive coordinator in the country was. And he said Mike Shanahan. And Charlie went out and got him. And obviously, he took off after Florida. He had a pretty darn good career. His kid's still coaching the Niners.
Now, but were you recruited by Galen?
I was recruited by Spurrier.
Oh.
I was his first out-of-state recruit. And then Jeremy Foley chose not to – it's just funny how it worked out, but chose not to offer Spurrier the job, when he was with Doug Dickey. And he was – I don't want to say he was let go, but he went along with Doug Dickey. And that's when Charlie came in. And then after that first year, which was a disaster on offense, that's when Charlie could see what was wrong with our system. And he went out and got Mike Shanahan, and Shanahan put his system in, and it just clicked. It was awesome, as you know.
Well, and Scott Brantley claims that Charlie tried to lose games that first year, but I don't know if that's
You still talk to Brantley?
Oh, yeah, every once in a while. Yeah, I saw him. I usually see him down at the Ocala quarterback club.
Right.
He's hanging in there. He's
right, but he was in his prime. There is not a better linebacker I've ever seen than Scott Brantley. He was the best.
Well, why did you come from up there in Pennsylvania? Why did you come to Florida?
Well, Spurrier. I'd signed with Pitt. Pitt back then won the national title. I was going to Pittsburgh, and that's I think the quarterback back then was Rick Tricano with they had Hugh Green. They had a great team. And then after that is when Spurrier came up and he invited me to take a visit to Gainesville. And
Spurrier, but for those of you who don't know, was a quarterback coach under Galen Hall. Yeah, there.
And he pretty much told me I would have a chance to. I mean, don't tell John Brantley this, but he told me I could have a chance to start pretty quick at Florida if I switched. And back then you could switch as long as it wasn't the same conference. So I flew into Gainesville, got picked up by a Gator Getter. Gotta love the Gator Getters.
Yep.
And ended up switching to Florida. And then Steve left with Charlie, with Doug Dickey, and Charlie and Mike Shanahan came in, and then it worked out real well.
Yeah, it's amazing that 1979 game against I guess it was against Georgia Tech. The one tie that you guys had in 79, and Scott.
Don't associate me with the 79 team, Pat.
Scott and
80
John
was my
both
first
get
year.
hurt. John steps on one of those flip tops and tears his ACL, and Scott has a head injury, and they're sitting side by side in the infirmary listening to the game.
Right. And you as you know, that was at that time when. Going from the 79 year to my first year at 80, it was the biggest turnaround in college football history at that time.
Yeah, well, what was that like? Because you play California down in Tampa.
Right, first game.
Yeah, first game, and they've got Chuck Muncie was on the team. Rich Campbell was their quarterback. Rich Campbell
set the game. A game we beat them pretty bad in that game.
Yeah.
But Campbell set a passing record. I think he threw almost 60 passes in that game. But yeah, we beat them pretty bad.
Did you guys know you were going to have a good team at that point, even though after 0-10-1?
Right. Well, at halftime, when we were up at halftime and we were big underdogs for that game, we could tell we could move the football, and I could tell I could throw the football, against Cal, and we just, we ended up scoring more points in that first game than we did the entire season the previous year in '79. We had 41 in the game against California. But we had some talent. The cool part about that team, I would put that team in '82 against any Gator team ever with the coaching staff and everything. It was so talented. I look back and it's like, how didn't we win the national title that year?
Well, you know what? Sometimes Charlie got uptight in games, and I think you saw that too.
Well, he kind of let Mike run the offense, but you're right. I know what you're talking about.
But yeah, and that's what I mean. That '82 team was so great, and that was the year you guys beat Miami, right?
Right. Wait, by the way, when we were talking to the AD and coach, I'm looking at the teams they're playing when they're not playing SEC teams this year. Florida's playing Stanford.
Yeah.
USF. I mean, we used to play USC, not USF. I mean, it's crazy. I get it. You want to build up the schedule and make sure you win all your non-conference games. But we used to play badass teams as non-conference games.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Including Miami.
That was back when Florida didn't just play, teams around the area. And now they are getting ready to start doing that. They're even coming out to Colorado in a few years, and they're going to be in Austin and Notre Dame, which I think is great. And I think everybody's had to re-examine the way they schedule. But the game I remember.
Overrated, by the way, Notre Dame. Go ahead, though. Just in general, in life, they've been overrated.
1982 at Tallahassee, which was an unbelievable game, and they turned the sprinklers on the fans there.
They did. We actually, Florida State was big favorite over us, and we had a great game, obviously, in Tallahassee when we beat them. And then we had a great team. Then we went in the bowl game, and I just wish we had a chance to play that whole season over again. As you know, Pat, it was so talented, that team, offensively, defensively, coaching-wise. And it's just sad that we had a great year, don't get me wrong, but we should have been undefeated.
Yeah. Was that the year they ended in the Peach Bowl, or was that 81?
81 Peach Bowl. Yeah, I've actually played okay in that game. They started Wayne, but I played okay in that game. We actually voted on going to a different game, but Charlie wanted to go recruit in Atlanta, so we played in a cold, rainy night in Atlanta, and got beat
badly.
Right. It's like okay, we made it to Atlanta, but this is how we wanted to be seen, and it was not a good day. It was not a good day at all. We actually voted to go into the team quote voted, and we voted to go to another game. And
what game did you vote to go to?
And Charlie wanted us to re-vote. Coach Bell, hope you're not listening.
That's not a vote.
we re-voted. He lobbied hard for Atlanta. We re-voted, and we did not go to the other game. We went to Atlanta, to the Peach Bowl. Which Atlanta was great. Don't get me wrong, but that game was terrible.
Do you remember which game you were trying to go to?
We actually, the team voted on that one that was in New York. Remember, they had that big. It was a great bowl back then. It was in New York City.
Yeah.
And we voted on that one, which I wish we would have gone. We didn't. We went to Atlanta.
Remember the days when the teams would decide where they were going, and now it's like it's all
we were supposed to.
Orchestrated.
We voted, but it didn't mean anything. Coach Bell said, "Let's re-vote."
Yeah, you guys got to re-vote on that one. Okay?
Right. Well, he says, Atlanta, we can do all this. It's great for recruiting in Atlanta. Not that New York would have been good, but I'm like, Jesus. And I knew exactly where he's going. He wanted us to re-vote, and we did. And we chose the ball we wanted to go to. We played in Atlanta.
Yeah. Those are such good teams. I mean, that's the thing when you look back and everybody thinks, I don't want to say everybody, but a lot of people, millennials especially, and they think Florida football started when Steve Spurrier walked in the door in 1990. And, I'm like, you had to have gone through, some of those losses that were so painful. Obviously, none more painful than Run, Lindsey, Run.
Right. Well, Charlie Pell's a great example. I mean, he didn't win in '79. They didn't win a game. They had one tie, I believe. That doesn't happen now. If you don't win, you're fired.
Yeah.
They gave him another chance, and that's when he got Shanahan, and we rebounded. But you start out with 0-9 or whatever the heck it was. You don't last.
10-1.
As you know, Pat.
Yeah, well, luckily when you're writing stories, you never lose. You just write the results, so you never.
Well, you're the legend. Look how many coaches have been there since I was there, and you've been there the whole time. I mean, I was going to ask you about this whole deal where the players now can get paid by sponsors, and I saw a bunch of like 20 Gators sign with somebody, right?
It must be killing you to think about what you could have made when you were in college. With all
I would have signed with Playboy my sophomore year. I would have been the first Playboy football player in the SEC. And I made a lot of money, not just dates. I would have made a lot of money with it.
I thought you were going to say play girl.
No. That's Burt Reynolds. Sorry, Florida State.
But I mean, it is kind of like I keep telling people, look, just let it all wash over you. All this stuff that's going on, transfer portal. Right. Expanded playoffs, NIL, Congress getting involved in this, just because you can still only put 11 guys on the field.
Right.
And Alabama's not going to get better or worse players. They're still going to get the same basic recruiting class they always get.
It's still Alabama.
It's going to work out.
Do you remember Alabama came into Gainesville? I think it was my redshirt year, and they destroyed us. It was like 40-0. It was crazy how good they were.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously. Right, they're still good. I mean, it's still great. I mean, not good. It's going to be interesting for the Gators this year to, number one, get their QB. Not that he can't play, but as a starter, it's a whole different world in the SEC. And I know he's a runner. I know he can throw too. Don't get me wrong, but having made the NFL, and I've seen how guys have gotten hurt that said they're not going to get hurt. The SEC is like the NFL. I mean, if you run too much, you're going to get hurt. I don't care who you are. It's the SEC. It's like playing in the NFL. So it's like, I know he's a runner, which is great because you need that ability, but be careful. That make any sense?
Talk about your post-Florida career.
Okay, which part of it though, as far as
any of it?
Well, my first job when I got done, I went to the Bucks and I bounced around with the Cowboys and the Jets, and It's amazing now to see guys like Brady that have played for so long and he's 44. I mean, when I was playing, in fact, today I still think the average career is only 3 years. It's just amazing guys like Brady just make a lifetime out of it. Right. But so after that's when I got hired by Caesars Entertainment, the parent company for Caesars, and that got me into the entertainment world. And like I said, as you know, I try to stay involved with football, whether it be broadcast. Me and Brantley did that radio show for 3 years, and which was great. So I always kept my foot in the door somewhere with broadcasting or radio or something to stay involved with football. And then on the business side, the entertainment with the resorts and the casinos is where I made my big mark.
But you never wanted to go into coaching?
Absolutely, I did. In fact, it's stupid I didn't with the way I was brought up with Mike Shanahan and just learning his system. I mean, I could have, who knows how far you could have go with that. And, but yeah, you always think about that. I mean, I learned from Mike Shanahan. I mean, there's not one better that knows offense. And I knew his offense inside and out, still know it today. And yeah, I could have gone into coaching. Back then I remember Shanahan told me McGriff was making, I think it was $100,000 as a receiver coach. And at that time, they thought that was a lot. That's why McGriff didn't go with him in the NFL. And, $100,000 now is, what's Coach Mullen making, $9 million? I think he's making $9 million, right?
Something like that.
8, 9. Once you get over 5, you lose millions.
You lose track of what it is. Yeah.
Right. But it's crazy. I mean, Shanahan's kid's making $30 million. So that's the way it is. In fact, that's what made the NFL, television made the NFL so big.
What's funny is I went up to Cincinnati to do a story on Collinsworth, and Hewko was there. He just showed up, and I said, "Hey, what's going on?" So we started talking, and then I went to the locker room afterwards to talk to Collinsworth, and Collinsworth started giving me the stiff arm. And that's because Hewko had told him to do that as a joke. So,
well, Chris is Chris. I mean, it's talk about a guy that's made a jump in broadcasting. How about his career? His show is now the #1 television show, not sports, the #1 television show in America, Sunday Night Football.
Has he tried to get you on his podcast?
Not yet. I haven't been on his podcast. I mean, I talked to Chris, and I guess I'm not a big enough name to be on Collinsworth. Hope you're listening, Chris, on his podcast. Him and Richard Sherman, right? Who's now going to make a comeback.
Yeah, that'll be crazy.
But yeah, I remember Collinsworth was one of the ugliest Gator football players ever. Now he's got the top TV show in America. Think about that.
Yeah. But he's unbelievable. I mean, when you think about all the people that went to the University of Florida or played at the University of Florida and have had these incredible broadcasting careers, whether it's Aaron Andrews, Laura Rutledge, whether
Cheryl
it's
Atkinson, our girl Cheryl.
Yeah. I mean, they're just everywhere. You can't shake a stick and not see somebody.
Right. And it's just crazy. I mean, Chris obviously knew what he's doing on football, and he knew how to stir it up. You know, when he was on the first time with Dick, he told me he's going to kill Dick on air. And he did, in a funny way. And, you know, here it is, you know, how many years later, and he's got the #1, and his kid's killing it now, too, Jack Collinsworth.
I know. He's doing great. That's great stuff. Well, all right. So when I get out there, I got your phone number. I'll give you a call, and maybe we can go have a drink together somewhere. And
now tell our new quarterback to be careful. Tell him to run, take the yardage, and get out of bounds. Don't go head on against these SEC guys. Not that he would get hurt. I just don't want to see him get hurt, because you can take the yardage and you get out of bounds. That's not like Shanahan now. Take the yardage and get out of bounds.
I will pass that along to him. And I'll tell him it came from the second best left-handed quarterback in Florida.
Well, depending on your thing. Well, there was a couple more besides me and Tebow and I, but I'm liking to see what this guy's going to do, because he obviously can run the football. But I've heard, and you see him all the time, I've heard he's got a pretty darn strong arm too.
He does. He's just got to get more accurate. If he gets more accurate this summer, they could. I think they could be really special. They could have a special football team.
And he can. If that's the problem, which I have heard, his short passing game is not as sharp as it should be. That can be worked on. You're absolutely right. That can be perfected.
Right.
So if that's the problem, definitely work on that. With the tight ends. Tell him to throw to the tight ends. I know he's got a new one, but keep throwing to the tight ends.
I will tell him. Bob, it's always great talking to you, man. Maybe we'll see you when I get out there, okay?
Yeah, give me a call. We'll hook up, and I'll get the Kardashians to come, too, for you. Take care, man.
Bob Hewko, former Florida quarterback. We have to take a break. We'll be right back with Cole Cubelic. Will be joining us on Another Dooley Noted Podcast.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from Another Dooley Noted Podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer To Go. What gave you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Ribco To Go. Come on down and enjoy it. This is Pat Dooley, and I want to tell you about my friends at the Gainesville Quarterback Club. I'm a member, and you should be too. It's the oldest Gator booster club in the world and a great place to meet new friends, network with prominent business people, and hear a great collection of speakers, including Dan Mullen, throughout the football season. Go ahead and give John Stevens a call at 352-222-8516 or sign up on the website, quarterbackclub.org.
Car accidents, trucking accidents, motorcycle accidents, and wrongful death. If injured or killed by the negligence of others, who will fight for the compensation you deserve? Hewko and Mercadante, 5 lawyers, more than 100 years of combined legal experience, millions in settlements and verdicts. Call Hewko and Mercadante, 371-3000. Rebuilding lives.
All right, welcome back to another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Hewko and Mercadante studios. We appreciate everybody for watching. If you're watching it live, if you're listening to us later, it's just as good. We won't screw anything up like I did last week. All right, right now we're going to be joined by the great Cole Cubelic. Of course, you see him on SEC games, you see him on ABC games, you see him on ESPN, you see him everywhere. And it's a big deal out in Birmingham. They are freaking out there because he and McElroy are now doing a show together, and that's a pretty good idea, a pretty good pairing, especially two guys that are as experienced as you are.
Yeah, I'll agree with you now. Check back in about 6 months when I have to deal with Greg for 3 hours every day starting at 7 a.m. So I appreciate it. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, but it's still having to deal with the former Alabama quarterback. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and he's had a lot to brag about lately. Obviously, that's no good either. But
he tells you about his golf game also, because he brags about that almost every day. So yes, I have to hear about that also.
Yeah, well, I'm not bragging about mine lately, so he'll win on that regard. Cole, obviously, you know the SEC as well as anybody, and we're sitting here, and I was asking this question the other day about clearly Alabama and Georgia are going to be picked to win their divisions. I think it's pretty clear Texas A&M and Florida will be picked to finish second. Then you're like, who is third? And then a lot of people are getting excited about LSU. Some people are excited about Kentucky and Missouri. They're kind of the new Tennessee this year. And I'm just like, I'm kind of just ready for SEC Media Day so we can see where the guys pick them to finish.
No, I'm kind of with you, Pat. I think it'll be very interesting because especially the media vote, it always feels like it's just dominated by 1, 2, 3 in each division. And we go in having a good idea what it's going to be like. And the media votes even maybe stronger than we thought it was going to be. And then we'll find that one person that picked Vanderbilt to win the East. And we're like, who was that guy? Like, show yourself. And, we never really know exactly who it was. But I think the West is very intriguing. Now, I do think that Alabama's the front runner. I will pick Alabama to win the West. But you mentioned A&M. I think that some of the concerns about A&M, I think they have some possibilities to really sort of plug those holes. You start with the O-line and D-line. I know there were some departures on the offensive line, but Layden Robinson was a guy that came in because of an injury against South Carolina, and he looked great last year. Jimbo's high on him. Kenyon Green is still the best returning offensive lineman in the league. He's going to be back. By the way, there's another Matthews coming through that's probably going to start at center for those guys. They always seem to be good football players. Yeah. And you get a transfer tackle in Jameer Johnson that played at Tennessee that actually knows what playing SEC football is like. He knows the speed of the game, the physicality of the game. So I don't think that position will be that big of a deal. And if Baylor Cupp can be healthy, now you got Weidermeyer and Cupp at tight end, which could be a really lethal combination. And you guys saw right there in Gainesville how having a flexible tight end can really change your offense. And they could maybe have two of those guys. Receivers, I know everybody wants to go quarterback. And Calzada, King, who's it going to be? They're a little bit different. Calzada more down the field. King maybe a little bit more shifty, not so much as a Johnny Manziel, but I think wide receivers is the big position because they got to have at least a guy who can stretch the field and help you downfield. If people are going to come up and stack the box against Spiller and A-Chain and those guys, and I think you'll see more two-back sets, but if you don't have anybody who can force the safeties and the secondary to play you in a different way down the field, it makes life very easy. So whether it's Caleb Chapman, whether it's Damon Demas, someone has to sort of take that role. And Chapman looked like he could be that guy early last year and then went down with an injury. Defensively, the defensive line is going to be great. I mean, most of those guys are back. Bobby Brown does leave. He was a good player. Didn't necessarily play 80, 90% of the snaps, but a big physical body that did some things inside. Michael Clemens is a big physical defensive end. DeMarvin Leal, most everybody has seen. He's not really a secret anymore. Most people had been projected to go in the first round of next year's draft. So you got some big bodies up front on defense that I think are really going to allow for Coach Elko to be similar to what he was a season ago. And he played a lot of guys on defense last year. So I don't look at any of the departures as massive. I know Kellen Mond was super productive. He was a big-time leader. It definitely is not going to be easy to replace him, but it's a lot easier when you have the guys around him on offense that they do, and Jimbo can kind of cater that thing to him. I think LSU is a super intriguing team because I don't think their talent is too much farther off anybody in the league. And that includes Georgia and Alabama. I'm not saying it's better top to bottom, Pat, but I think it's close. The weird thing about LSU when people start talking about him is no one seems to talk about the guy that might be the best football player in the country, and that's Derek Stingley. And everybody just talks about, defense was bad and this and that, but the best player in the country might be back on that side of the ball. And you pair him up with Elias Ricks and a couple other guys in that secondary that played last year. Cordell Flott has played nickel and corner and safety. He can move around. They have real big body, big boy SEC defensive linemen that are back. That's inside and outside. BJ Olajari showed he can rush the passer. Ali Gay can rush the passer. So I think you'll have a coordinator that now maybe handles that thing in a little bit more of a responsible manner as opposed to last year. A lot of the O-line is back. You have two quality quarterbacks to choose from. I personally think Max Johnson wins it. And by the way, you got a receiver who's caught for more yards in a single game than anybody in the history of the league. In Keyshawn Boutte, I think Dre Jenkins is going to be fine to help him there as well. So very talented group. If they're on the same page on both sides of the ball, they're going to be dangerous. Obviously, we know Ole Miss is going to be able to score. It's just, can you get me a stop, like a stop a game, a stop a half? Like, give me one turnover a game, and maybe they can go a little bit past what they did a year ago in the win column. I'm not super high on Auburn. I think it's just going to be tough sledding with what they have on the offensive line and defensive line, and they're very young at receiver. Getting Demetrius Robinson from Georgia is going to help, but we need to see Bo Nix take some big steps as well if that's going to be a team that's sort of in the mix in the West. But I think A&M and LSU are very interesting. My surprise team in the entire league is Mississippi State. I don't think they win the division. I don't think they're even in contention for the division, but most people are talking about 2 or 3 wins for that group. Zach Arnett's still the D coordinator. You lost 3 quality guys. I understand that. You lose Kobe Jones on the defensive line, Marquis Spencer on the defensive line, Errol Thompson's gone at linebacker, but ton of guys that played a scheme that's very difficult to prepare for, very much an attacking style, and it felt like once the youth was inserted into that offense last year, a little bit later, with Jaden Walley at receiver and Marks at running back, and then all of a sudden you had a quarterback that had been playing a little bit, but he got more comfortable. Now it sort of looked like how it was supposed to look. So, and I think we always hear with Coach Leach, rep. It's repetitions. They only have 6 plays, 8 plays, whatever you want to call it, and they just got to rep it. Well, no spring practice. Couldn't really be around each other for 7-on-7, very limited fall camp. So I think they might benefit more from how different this offseason is going to be than any other team in the league. And in the East, I'm with you what you said. I like Kentucky a lot. I think getting Wan'Dale Robinson from Nebraska, they've been missing a big play receiver for a long time. They had one in Lynn Bowden, but he had to go play quarterback. And they just haven't had that. I mean, they got a tight end from Iowa, a power forward from Iowa, that they're trying to throw in there and catch passes a couple of years ago. Now they're going to have the physical O-line. They're still going to have Christopher Rodriguez, Cavassier Smoke. And if they can get a quarterback in there in a new system, a new scheme with a couple of receivers that can maybe help stretch the field, they're going to be a different team. A lot of that front seven's back. And I love Kentucky's schedule. Now the Missouri game week 2 is massive. In October is absolutely filthy. You get Georgia, Florida, LSU at Mississippi. They got a bye week in October, and it still may be the hardest month of any team in college football because you got LSU, you got Georgia, you got Florida, and you're at Mississippi State. I mean, that is just nasty. But if they could just find a way to go 500 there, I think they have a chance to get to 9, maybe even 10 wins if some things go their way. So after that, I'm with you. I like Missouri a lot. I think Connor Baszler has a chance to be a great quarterback in this league. How good is everything going to be around him? We don't really know that just yet. A lot of new faces there. And The one thing about Tennessee, I don't really have high expectations for Coach Heupel's team this year, but keep this in mind, Pat. They are at least going to get opportunities to score. And the offense they had the last few years, they weren't even really giving guys a lot of chances to do things down the field. I don't care if it's you and I out there playing wide receiver this year. They're throwing the ball down the field. It's going to happen. And they're going to go fast enough to where they get multiple chances per half, per game, more so than they did a year ago. So they're going to find some points somehow. Now, I don't know if they have enough bodies around everything else to be able to stay in contention for a lot of the games they're going to play. And I think they have two dangerous non-conference games. Pitt with Cody Pickett back is tough. And by the way, the only starting quarterback that Tennessee will face this year that has defeated them previously is Jake Bentley at South Alabama. So that's going to be a tough game late in the year. Kane Womack's going to do good things down there. Yeah, South Alabama. He beat them twice. And no other team on the schedule has a quarterback that has started against Tennessee and beat them. So kind of a little weird nugget there for you. But I'm with you. I think after number one, it could be very interesting in both divisions as to who is 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah, let me ask you a little bit about Florida because, I mean, we all know what they lost. Kyle Trask, Kyle Pitts, Kadarius Toney, all first round and a second round pick. They weren't good on defense last year. Again, I think nobody was really good on defense last year. But it's funny to me when I'll see these rankings and they'll rank the best coaches in the country, and Mullen will be 5th, or Mullen will be 7th, or Mullen will be 8th. And then they go, how good is Florida going to be? Oh, they're not going to be any good this year. And I'm like, wait a minute. They've got good players. They may not have name players, but if Mullen is such a great coach, which I think he is too, shouldn't he be able to take those players to another level and still be in contention with Georgia? I mean, a little bit has to do with the schedule, with facing Alabama, facing LSU. But, you know, I think people are just dismissing Florida too easily.
I agree with that. We talked about it a lot on my show in Birmingham this morning, and because of some comments that had been made about not being in the top 25 and, you know, that division of the SEC being one of the worst in college football, which for me, it's kind of tough to imagine. The other part of it, Pat, is like I have one of these teams this year. It's Ohio State. So just full disclosure. Like I don't think Ohio State's a top 5 team coming into this season. And some of that's quarterback. Some of that is not just departures from last year, but Alabama seems to be the only team that departures in back-to-back-to-back seasons never really catch up to them. And it's not just what Ohio State lost last year, but it's the year before and the year before. I think that defensive line, that front 7 really is not quite going to be the same. I think they hit a bit of a home run with the transfer at tailback last year that they had to have late, and he came on just in time to be able to save them a little bit. They lost their best 2 offensive linemen who both got drafted, Josh Myers and Wyatt Davis, and I felt like they were sort of the heartbeat of that group, and now they're gone. I'm not saying that I don't think Ohio State's going to be good. And I've had 7, 8 different people come on my show that cover the team or cover the league, and I'll ask them, why is Ohio State a top 5 team? And what I'm getting to with this answer is the only response that I've gotten from anybody is, they're Ohio State. You know, they're still Ohio State. You know, they still got those Buckeyes on the helmet and this and that. And I'm like, well, okay, well, give me the reasons. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Florida won the East last year, right? They were in the SEC championship game. Yep. And 3 years before that and 4 years before that, one of those 2 years. And I mean, I think most people nationally would say Florida is a college football powerhouse. Why does Florida not get similar respect? From the standpoint of everybody lost some guy. I mean, hell, Pat, if we're just judging teams based on who you lost, Alabama probably shouldn't be in the top 50.
Right.
I mean, they lost 3 guys that you could make a legit argument should have won the Heisman Trophy. Yeah, 3, exactly. Not 1, 3. Exactly. And lost multiple draft picks on the offensive line, lost multiple draft picks on defense. So if that's all, if all we're saying is, well, they lost this guy and this guy, there's no way. Well, Alabama lost more than anybody. But obviously, you know, they've gained that respect. And there's no reason for us to really doubt what they'll be able to replace and reload with. But maybe not to the exact extent, but I do think that not only Dan Mullen, as you brought up, but Florida also deserves a little bit of credit for being able to recruit, being able to develop, and then on top of that, being able to coach. I was somebody who, when Dan Mullen got hired, I said he will win a national championship at Florida. It's going to happen. I respect him that much, and I think he's that good of a coach. And I think when you look at some of the things that do return, there are some reasons to be excited. Do I have concerns about him? Yeah. The offensive line's got to come around at some point if they're going to be great. If they're going to truly be great, the O-line's got to start playing better in both facets, running the ball and passing the ball. I think they're fine at tailback. I think Emory Jones has a chance to be a very good college quarterback. I don't know if I'm going to go Mike Renner from PFF and say he's the number 8 overall pick, but I think he can be a very good SEC quarterback. I didn't think he was going to come out of the Auburn game 2 years ago in 19 when he came in for Trask. And he throws a good pass or two, then he makes a run, and I'm thinking, you got to leave this guy in. And so every time we've talked to Dan about him, he's had nothing but great things to say. You've got Copeland back at receiver and a couple other guys that have played at skill positions. It's not like there's no speed or athleticism there. So, and then I think that there are some guys that we're kind of waiting to come around. The defense should be interesting because, I kind of thought that there was a guy or two. I thought Diabate would break out last year. You get Newkirk that transfers in. He's done some nice things at Auburn. I've seen him play some. So there are little pieces on that side of the ball. It might have to be managed a little bit differently because you might not put up 38 a game or whatever it was this coming up season.
Right.
But if you could use your quarterback to generate more in the run game, possess the ball a little bit more, obviously play a little bit more field position by gaining more first downs, moving the chains a little bit more, that changes the dynamic and the outcome of every game. So I'm with you in that I don't understand how we say this guy gone, okay, we're out. That there are some schools that have recruited to be able to replace that, and there are some coaches that are good enough to overcome that. I think Florida and Dan Mullen at least deserve to be mentioned in one of those classifications.
It's funny that you mentioned that because in terms of controlling the ball, that was always my knock on Muschamp at Florida. Is Muschamp wanted to protect the defense by controlling the ball on the offense. So he would run to keep the defense off the field. And so guess what? His defensive stats never looked that bad, but they went, they'd still lose the game. And I think Mullen will have a balance of that where he's going to protect it a little bit, the defense, but he's still going to be willing to throw it. So it'll be interesting, and it'll be interesting I wish I was going to SEC Media Days. I know you'll be there, right?
I will be there. Correct. Yeah, looking forward to it. It's going to be fun to be back in it. So
have fun with it. Tell everybody I miss them. And in my semi-retired state, I'm going to miss them all. But I know you'll do a great job, and look forward to what you are able to do from there as well. And thanks so much for joining us today, Cole. It's always great talking to you, buddy.
I appreciate you having me. Sorry about the mix-up last week, but fine. Anytime you need me, let me know. Glad to join you.
All right, we'll get you during football season, okay, buddy?
Sounds good. Thanks, Pat.
Thanks. Cole Cubelic from ESPN and, of course, the SEC Network. We have to go to break. We have so much to cover when we get back. Hand law, 3 things. Adam's Rib Code, Mount Rushmore. Leonardo's Quick Picks. We got to do the this, that, and the other, and the Friday Football Fix. All that and more when we return on another Duly Noted podcast.
Car accidents, trucking accidents, motorcycle accidents, and wrongful death. If injured or killed by the negligence of others, who will fight for the compensation you deserve? Hewko and Mercadante, 5 lawyers, more than 100 years of combined legal experience, millions in settlements and verdicts. Call Hewko and Mercadante, 371-3000. Rebuilding lives.
Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from Another Dooley Noted Podcast. This is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam's Rib Code to Go. What would give you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place like this?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Code to Go. Come on down and enjoy it. This is Pat Dooley, and I want to tell you about my friends at the Gainesville Quarterback Club. I'm a member, and you should be too. It's the oldest Gator booster club in the world and a great place to meet new friends, network with prominent business people, and hear a great collection of speakers, including Dan Mullen, throughout the football season. Go ahead and give John Stevens a call at 352-222-8516 or sign up on the website, quarterbackclub.org.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Okay, welcome back to another Duly Noted podcast here in the Shaq Allen Mercandani Studios, the plush Shaq Allen Mercandani Studios, and we appreciate them so much for being a sponsor. Like I said earlier, we've added a couple more sponsors, Alex Wesley Construction, and as well as our Friday Football Fix is now sponsored by somebody. I'll get to that in just a minute. But I want to do this, that, and the other, and this, that, and the other, as you know, is sponsored by Ballyhoo Grill, and by Dar Shackow Insurance, and by Ironwood Golf Course. We appreciate them so much because it's connected to what we were just talking about. And this being that Florida has lost all kinds of players from last year. We all know that. That's this. It's no big surprise. We all know no more Kyle Trask, there's no more Kyle Pitts, there's no more Kadarius Toney. There's other players that are missing. Ventrell Miller is going to play elsewhere. I think Jackson State is where he's going to play. Not Ventrell Miller. Golly. James Houston. Ventrell Miller will be at SEC Media Days, actually. You didn't hear that from me, though. So that's this, that we all know what Florida's lost. And that's a great point by Cole, is that Florida has lost a lot. You know, Alabama's lost even more. That is that Florida is getting dissed in all these different things. And what he was referring to was Heather Dinich, who we had on our show last week. I love to death, but she came out and said Florida wasn't in her top 25 because Florida, or the SEC East, is the worst division in college football. Whatever division Clemson's not in, and I can never keep those apart, that's worse. I can tell you that. And not only that, but the league has a bellwether in Georgia and Florida also, which was steps away from. It's not the worst division in college football or in the Power Five, certainly. But it's not just Heather, and it's not just everywhere I look, I see Florida getting dissed. There's a lot of hate on the Gators going into this year, and I understand it to a point, but I don't understand it. The other being, just the other day, I saw a list of the top coaches in college football. Dan Mullen was number 5. I'm like, well, wait a minute. If he's number 5, you're saying even he can't work with this mess? No, this is a good roster. I love this roster. If the offensive line takes a step, and even if it's not a major step, I'd love it to be a major step. If it takes a step, if the wide receivers come through the way I think they will, I think Jacob Copeland will have a big year. I think, look, maybe NIL will be his impetus to do it. You know, don't count out Trent Wintermore. They've got really good tight ends. They got 5 running backs that can play. I think the defense will be a lot better. I think this is a really good roster. But Dan Mullen can't do anything with it, even though he's one of the best coaches. That's the other. I'm trying to figure it out, guys. You need to be all on the same page. He's a good coach, so he'll figure a way to make it work. Anyway, that's this, that, and the other. Sponsored by Ballyhoo, Dar Shackow Insurance, and Ironwood here in the Shaq Allen Mercadante Studios. We're Shaq out all over the place, man, which I love, and those are great people. All right, Hand Law. It's time for the Hand Law 3 things. It is presented by Hand Law, Florida law firm which helps clients with government. You can learn more about Hand Law by visiting its website at www.hand.law. The firm is available for consultation in Jacksonville. In fact, I'm actually going to get to meet Chris Hand, I think, next week. He's coming into town where I think we're going to go to lunch or something. We'll do something. I'm looking forward to it. He's been a sponsor despite the fact that we've never met, and I appreciate him so much. The three things presented by Hand Law here in the Shackow Mercadante studios. Number one, no fans at the Olympics. Very disappointing. I mean, I'm sure they're doing what they feel is right. I don't live in Japan. I can't tell you whether it's a problem or not out over there, but it's disappointing, I'm sure, for the athletes. You want that crowd adrenaline going. You want to celebrate. And we've seen it in other sports where without crowds, it's been a problem in terms of just like your excitement level watching the athletes isn't as great because there is nobody screaming and yelling. But they've already got people in protocol. They got big problems over there in terms of this. And, I think there was a lot of people who said, well, why not just have it somewhere else? I have it there, but where it is. Number two, already more than 40 Gators have worked out NIL agreements. And I wonder because I'm a big believer that athletes come to this state, and Tom Brady being an example, obviously with what they've done in hockey, what they've done in baseball, with the Tampa Bay Rays, it's become title town. But that no income tax thing, I wonder if that's going to help Florida athletes, not just Florida, FSU, and Miami, with no income tax, and you had the NIL go into place really early, get even better players or more good players. That's just something to keep in mind going down the stretch. But it's not just football players that are getting these. It's other athletes, gymnasts especially. I tell you what, gymnastics is where you're going to see a lot of NIL money coming in. Hopefully, everybody, and I think they do, and I know at Florida they're doing it the right way, and they're making sure these kids, these young student athletes, understand, or do we even call them student athletes anymore? They're just athletes. That you've got taxes to pay. There's other things involved here, and we'll see. Finally, number three was the match. Brady and Rodgers and DeChambeau and Mickelson. And I'm like, I don't want to watch this. And then I started watching it. I couldn't take my eyes off it. The golf course in Montana was unbelievable. It was fun to listen to these guys. And, when they had that big match back, was it in Jupiter? I think it was. Back during the COVID times, we were just into COVID. You watched it because it was all there was. This time I watched it because it was really fun to watch. So congratulations to golf for getting that done. All right. That is three things presented by Hand Law here in the Shackow Mercadante studios. It is time now to go to the Adams Ribco Mount Rushmore. This is the hardest one to do. Women's tennis. There's the two no-brainers, and that's Lisa Raymond and Andy Brandy. Andy Brandy made Florida women's tennis what it is, all the national titles. Lisa Raymond was the best to ever play here, maybe one of the best athletes to ever play here. Those were easy, but they had so many. I mean, I was looking at 4-time All-Americans that I couldn't put on the list. And it was hard. I had to leave off people like Stephanie Nikitas, who's an unbelievable player. Lauren Embry, who I love to death. She's a great person, and she All-American over and over and helped them win a national title. I ended up going with Nicole Rent, who I really liked her when she was a player, and she was a 4-time All-American, and Dawn Booth. Those were the ones I went with. You can bring up Kathy Goodrich. You can bring up Jill Krabus. You can bring up Sean Stafford, who's from Gainesville, Florida. Pat, what are you doing? That's my Mount Rushmore. Presented by, of course, Adams Ribco to Go. And we appreciate them for being a great sponsor. We love them over there, but it's hard. That was the hardest one I've had to do. And I finally just said, just go with something and you might change your mind tomorrow. On Monday, we're almost done with this. We may go, I guess we could go men's tennis. Yeah, maybe we'll go men's tennis on Monday. That may do it. I don't know if we've missed anybody. I guess we did swimming, right? Men's swimming. We could do women's swimming. Tracy Calkins. But we'll figure out who we're going to do then. All right. It is time for your Friday football fix. And we have a new sponsor. It's presented by Hesser and Kipke. They are a Gainesville law firm specializing in family law and workers' compensation. We appreciate them for coming on board. Also, by the Gainesville Quarterback Club, their next guest, their next speaker is going to be Ben Troop on August 17th. So if you want to see Ben Troop, and then 2 weeks later, it's Laura Rutledge. So look, I love this place. And you get to hear me speak too. But the Gainesville Quarterback Club is huge, and it's just tremendous. So come on by. Come on by and join, and this is a good time to become a member. So we appreciate Hesser and Kipke, a law firm, and the Gainesville Quarterback Club for sponsoring the Friday Football Fix. And the Friday Football Fix today, Media Days, is next Monday. Not this coming Monday, the Monday after that. It is almost here. Now, I don't consider Media Days to be the official start of college football season, because when Media Days is over, it is still 37 days until the first, what they call week 0, which I refuse to call week 0, is. That's a long time. So it's not like it's the beginning, but it's when we start to get excited. Wednesday of next week is when we'll find out what players are coming at every school. They're waiting on it. I talked about this before. So we'll find out on Wednesday who's coming. I know who's coming from Florida, and I know who's not coming. It might be a little bit of a surprise for you. Emory Jones isn't going to be there, which I understand that too. And I'm curious, so how many quarterbacks will go? I don't know, because really, when you look around this league, a lot of people are sitting there going, well, it's going to be one or the other. You're not going to bring the one guy. The other guy's feeling like, come on, man. And you're only going to bring 2 guys this year. They usually bring 3. At one point, it was 2. They upped it to 3, and it had been 3 for a long time. But now this year, they're back to 2, probably thinking there's no point putting more people at risk, in these situations. It's going to be interesting to see how well attended Media Days is as well. Bo Nix will be there, you got to think. And I guess I would think JT Daniels will be there. Baszler from Missouri may be there, because you heard Cole mention him. Matt Corral will be there. Matt Corral was there 2 years ago as a freshman. So I would think he would be there. Bryce Young? I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. It'll be fun. All right. I hope you enjoyed today's show. It was good to get back in the saddle today, and I had a good time. Thanks so much to Bob Hewko, who is tremendous. We could have him on every show, really. And to Cole Cubelic, who does a great job for SEC Network and for ESPN. Thanks to all of our great sponsors. I love you guys, man. You're making this show happen. You're making it hop. And, man, when we get to football season, this show is going to be amazing. We are going to eventually drop back to just one guest, because when we get to football, there's too much to talk about without having guests on. We'll only have one guest. We may even start that on Monday, because our guest Monday will be Stacy Nelson, the greatest softball player in the history of Florida softball. She'll be coming to us from Los Angeles, or again, where I'm headed. I'm just doing a Los Angeles thing, and I can't wait to talk to her. She's got, of course, the great fund that she's got going to help people over in Africa. We'll talk to her about that as well. But I want to talk to her about NIL, and I want to talk to her about the Olympics. Softball kicks off the Olympics, so we'll talk to her about all that. Charlie Strong, I think it's Friday. I don't have my list here. I think Charlie Strong is going to join us on Friday. And also Steve Tan is going to join us in a couple of weeks, former All-American at Florida. So we'll keep lining up these guests and keep having fun. I hope you guys have too. Thanks to Evan, producing remotely today, because a little under the weather. But that's okay. We got through it, Evan. Great job. And we'll be back with another show on Monday. Until then, I am Pat Dooley. I'm deep. I'm way back, and I am out of here.